All right. Good evening, everyone. We got quite a few people in here with us already tonight. Halloween, good to see you. Anthony, Angela, Jade, Luna, Moonradish, and Perwin and Luna. Thank you. Welcome. Angela, I actually got the video shot for your candle technique. We should be seeing that video in February. So keep an eye out for that one. I am doing really, really good here. We did have a snowstorm hit the area. Um, wasn't too bad as far as my personal opinions go, but uh, well, the area's not used to snow, so they panicked a little bit. However, it was a really beautiful snow. So really, me and the wife's just been kind of chilling out in the house, relaxing, enjoying the snow. Um, a good chunk of the roads all melted off today, so we're ready to go back to work tomorrow, actually. So, yay! Everything's been going good there. Let's see. Violet Star, welcome. Glad you can make it. Are you doing a snowman's? No, no, no. Honestly, there really wasn't enough to do a snowman. Like I said, it wasn't much. It was only maybe 6 inches in some spots. And in all honesty, most of the time it was really dry snow, so it wasn't even good for snowballs and snowman anyway. But other than that, it was just really beautiful, personally, from my perspective. I hadn't got to see a reasonable amount of snow in so long. I enjoyed it. I really did. I enjoyed it. I took the day snowed in as an opportunity to make some barbecue ribs yesterday. So, made good use of my time. Let's put it that way. Let's see, Angela, I'm feeling super excited. I just began work with new deity so far. I'm enjoying the working, and her presence alone is helping me with one of my biggest phobias. Hey, that's awesome, Angela. That is great to hear. Awesome. Um, let's see what's been going on around here. Well, this week we have been doing a lot of work, really fine tuning and dialing in exactly what all we're trying to get into the evocation course for when we start to film that. We're working real hard to try and get that all dialed in and get ready to get going. Before you ask, no, we don't have a release date. As well as continuing my Norse path workings and everything in that, and keeping some good solid notes on that. We are considering doing a few more Norse videos very, very soon. Um, Also, for the YouTube channel members and the Patreon members, now that we are into the new year and things are quasi starting to level out, we're wanting to get the members only live streams going back up. As to the day that those will be, I'm not 100% sure yet. It does look like if you check the Patreon and the members only, well, it's the community tab, but it'll be a members only post. You can vote on the time that would best suit you. We are trying to get as good a turnout on these as we can in hopes that we can do them, because if we don't get a good turnout, it does make it harder to do those. So be sure you go over there and click what time would work best for you. I'm hoping to get them started within the next week or so, just to get that on covered. A12, good to see you again. Biggest phobia is scorpions. I can see that. I can see that. Tika, welcome. Will Thor finally have a video? That is actually one I really do need to get a video on. His old Redbeard himself. Oh Lord, I really do. It is kind of funny that I still haven't got a video on Thor, Luna. Try to remind me of that. That would actually be something I need to add to the list and make that happen. You're right. Um, there's a lot of entities I'd love to do videos on. I wish I had more time. Another thing that I am considering doing, just so you all are aware, a lot of people really liked when I did the little short vlogs. So I am considering doing more of those and possibly squeezing those into a Thursday or Friday video drop. So it wouldn't be like a full detailed like videos like we do on Tuesdays, but it would be a little short little vlogging style video. So many people really enjoyed when I was doing those shorter videos, which were largely uncut. So we are going to consider getting those back up and running. So let's see. We got here. Get his own video. Don't like scorpions can be a pain. They really can. Angela, have you ever worked with Thor and Loki at the same time? I always wonder how they'd. Actually, yeah, I have. Thor and Loki actually really do get along. A lot of people forget in the Edis they were friends. In fact, the three main traveling companions you read about throughout the Edis are Thor, Loki, and Odin. Yes, Thor was one of the few people who could actually get Loki to behave at times, and but yeah, they did actually get along quite well, and they still do. They're a lot of fun to work with. Even all the Norse ones you talked to. Yeah, I mean, uh, GK, yeah, I work with quite a few, and I did do one for Odin, Hel, and Freya already, which probably get the and Loki actually probably, but those three definitely get the bulk of a lot of my Norse time, or did originally. I'm trying to dedicate more time to other Norse entities, especially during this current path working, as we are going to be putting a lot, and I do mean a lot of the Norse entities into the Norse magic class when we do it. I'm going to try and cover as many as possible. I'm just going to make sure they are covered well. So we got to make sure that gets done. Let's see here. Da-da-da-da. Hey, Drake, can you explain the ranks of the Goetic spirits? Thanks. Okay, the ranks of the Goetic spirits. First off, what you have to understand when we are talking rankings of spirits at all, it is strictly based upon the tradition. In fact, um, the angelic ranks, they change depending on what tradition or text you're looking at. The supposed infernal or demonic hierarchies, those change from text and everything. So the ranks we see in the Goetia will change based on other places as well. And it is literally just a ranking system that was used by nobilities. In fact, you'll notice that the names in there, the marquises, the presidents, kings, these are all rankings that were traditionally used elsewhere in order to kind of give kind of well, very similar to the same form of rankings that you would see king, knights, lords, and dukes back in the day. It's actually pretty arbitrary. Um, I know a lot of people like to put the demonic kings up on this big pedestal, but when you work with them enough, what you're actually going to find out is um, when it comes to those 72 spirits, they do have different talents in different areas where they specialize in, but you're also going to find that there's not really a lesser spirit in the Goetia. It is only based upon that tradition and the arbitrary ranking that was placed within that text. Um, which by and large, the spirits really don't care about. Um, and when the spirits do latch on and worry about it, it's more they latch onto it and care about it more for our perspective because it's something that allows us an easier time to work with them or to understand them. It's nothing to do with their side of the fence, if that makes any sense, Moonradish. Let's see, Angela. I do love spiders. Arachnids sort of snapped me up early, and witch hood. Scorpions terrify me because I had bad encounters at age. Scorpions way bigger when they're stinging your loved ones. Oh, the big scorpions really aren't all that dangerous on a poison state side of the fence, anyway. Scorpions have never bothered me. Spiders are the ones that creep me out. Violet Star, if you want to see a great movie on the Norse, it's called Mortal on Prime or Netflix. I'd have to check it out. I really don't get around to watching a lot of movies. And unfortunately, I get really picky when it comes to mythology because I've watched Hollywood butcher it for so long. Let's see what we got here. And we jumped. Smells are. Okay. Uh, illness name. Trying to catch up here. Mr. Mike asked if I have ever worked with Baphomet. Um, yeah, yeah. Interestingly enough, and this is something a lot of people don't like, and it's one reason I'm wanting to do a video. Um, Baphomet is actually a very, 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 very young entity. In fact, a lot of people's not even sure it is an entity, and that right there is going to trigger so many people. It's going to be amazing. But when we actually dive into the lore of Baphomet and the origins, we don't actually see Baphomet in its current iteration until very, very, very like I mean, on a spiritual level, it's very young, but I want to say it's 1800s is the first time we see the relief carving, and the first time we ever hear a potentially structured form of its name is around the Knights Templar, where there's actually groups trying to literally shut down the Knights Templar. Um, However, that said, anytime that I have reached out and worked with Baphomet, I was really, really disappointed because it came across very, very egregorical in energy patterns. And this was throwing me off for a really long time. And then I actually sat down and spoke with several magicians who are um, practicing Luciferians and other pathways similar to those, especially within the LeVay lines as well. And they actually basically confirmed what I was finding is that this is an entity that has become more egregorical based upon the relatively young lore based around it. Um, and that does make a lot of sense. And since then, I have pulled a lot of notes and records and whatnot, and some of which they pointed me to, um, which I don't have in front of me, so I don't want to really sit here and quote dates or whatnot. But as far as an egregorical entity, anytime I've worked with it, it's been an interesting entity to work with, but it's also one I don't tend to work with a lot because I find anything that I could approach this entity with would be far easier from a different perspective. Now, that said, for many of the spiritual pathways that view this entity not as an entity but as a symbol or a representation of what they might seek to achieve, that actually makes a lot of sense, which I do find quite intriguing. see. Let me just see. Violet, that's an interesting take. This was about Thor's hammer. The runes were phenomenal. What? I missed something, clearly. Hey, Peachy, you made it. Oh, crap, we jumped. What the? Okay. Trying to find questions in here. Nothing to be too sorry for. So the cookies are still a go. Well, that's good to know. That is really good to know. Oh, it's Violet Star. It's tricky because I do love to watch a good movie, and I can separate Hollywood from myth. But at the same time, it's getting harder, and largely because the more and more Hollywood produces intriguing stories, um, the more and more I'm finding people who watch a movie and they don't do their reading, and then they'll take the movie as this is how the lore actually is written. Which this is why we have a lot of people who have a very very drastic misunderstanding of Odin, Thor, and Loki, which we can currently thank Marvel for. Oh, and I'm just realizing we have 18 people in here and 10 likes. So if you're in here, please give us a thumbs up. Let YouTube know you like the channel and what we're doing here in the live streams. Because Thor is the son of Odin, Loki is not. Loki is actually the blood brother of Odin in the myths. So they're not actually, they don't have that parental relationship. And when it comes to Melnjorn, Melnjorn is a hammer. Um, it has a few traits, but the ability to pick it up, anyone can pick it up. Anyone. It's even just been stolen before in the myths. Um, so Marvel has utilized this mythology to generate a creative story. And there's nothing wrong with a creative take and story. It's the problem is when people don't sit down to look at the source material and they think that the creative take is um, that is the original, which is a little sad. Let's see here. Abraxius. The name looks familiar. The name Abraxius looks familiar, but it's not one that I'll be honest with you, Taki. It's not one that's my brain's drawing on real well right now. Heard it may be imposer, source, and parasitic. Um, well, parasitic beings are really easy to deal with. You could do a lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram if you know that. That will clear out parasitic entities. So will the dragon's flame ritual, which we do have on the channel. I haven't gotten around to doing a video on the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. Um, and part of that is I don't want to really butcher the linguistics on it. Um, so I've been trying to figure out a good way to present this in a manner that would actually be helpful. However, many of you have noticed that we are using a different editing program for videos, which you all seem to like. And that does allow us to do a bit more overlay text. So that might actually be just what I need to get that lesser banishing ritual up. I'm going to tinker with that a little this week to see if I can play around with it and get a setup and a structure that's going to at least make me comfortable with what I put out on the ritual. Have I ever worked with the Spider Queen? You mean Arachnia? Yeah, I have worked with her during my works within the Cliff Off. I actually, many of y'all know I'm arachnophobic, but I actually do have to say I enjoyed my workings with her. I won't say they weren't stressful. Lord knows they were stressful. And I do need to actually pathwork the tunnels entirely with her at some point, which I got a lot already on the plate this year, so that's probably not going to happen this year. I'm hoping next year will be a good time to do that. See. See, origins of sanity. Question for any dragon deities that someone may come across. Is it okay to call these entities deities, or would it be better to call them something else? By and large, dragons do not want to be revered as gods. Um, so when we talk about deities and or gods, that is a title, a label, and a pedestal in which we selectively promote entities to. Okay, we just put them up on these pedestals. Um, and we also take them down off these pedestals. So if you look at human history, you will notice that many entities have just gone up and down, up and down, up and down of whether or not humans view them as deities. Now, for the most part, many of these entities do not care. Um, like Azazel. Azazel, some people view him as a god. Some people view him as a demon. Some people view him as an angel. Azazel views Azazel as Azazel. He doesn't care. Because no matter how we choose to label him or view him, doesn't change him at all. So he really doesn't care. Odin, we do have on a pedestal. We do view him as a god, and he is definitely one of the ones people definitely recognize. Odin is Odin, though. And I have seen Odin be approached by a lot of people who refer to him as a entity and a spirit. They don't refer to him in any deity-like concept, which is kind of interesting. And he doesn't seem to mind it. Dragons, on the other hand, interestingly enough, dragons seem to get a little irked about being referred to as gods and or deities. I've been trying to narrow down a way to put it into words why they don't particularly like the title. But largely, as far as I've figured, is where their job is so important and focusing on the balance. To take and place them in any of these weird pedestal roles really distills and distorts their purpose. Um, and that does seem to bother them for some reason or another. Um, and I'm still trying to narrow it down and find a way to put it into words. I just have not yet. As Dragon of the West, as far as what a god is nothing more than an entity. There's really nothing that separates a god from another entity. All entities are still growing. All entities are still learning. Um, there are none that are all powerful, all omnipotent absolutes In fact, there's what's referred to as the multiversal home field advantage. In which case, if you face off with, one entity has to deal with another entity, the home field advantage is going to play into effect drastically. So, literally, what makes a god is our own decision to view them as such. So, I hope that makes some kind of sense. Let's see. See, Dragon of the West, is it necessary to do the rituals or visualizations in the new Hermetics in the orders they are written, or can you do whichever we want? When it comes to the Hermetic traditions and that, um, I mean, I was always taught to do them in order, and I actually did personally find when you're doing Hermetic rituals that the order does matter because the energy flow that they're doing, it's kind of like baking a cake, really. And you need to get that order and that process correct, or it can, I mean, the rituals still have the potential to work, but the energy is not in line, it's not balanced. It's kind of like trying to drive your car with two tires. Could you make progress? Yes. Would it be the best progress? Probably not. Oh, hold on. Anthony, hey. Thank you. Mugs up to you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Most interesting looking entity I've worked with. Ooh, that's a hard one, actually. Most interesting. I guess it would depend on how we interpret the word interesting. Because as far as I was not expecting that, I would definitely place angels into that category because I grew up with a very, very common theme of angels. This is pretty much the theme everyone knows. Human looking, fluffy wings, very peaceful. Um, the first time, and it's so weird because I remember Revelations was like my favorite book back in the day. And there's even descriptions of angels in there that just doesn't click with that imagery. But when I actually worked with an angel directly and actually saw an angel in its true form, not its humanoid visage, I didn't know what to think. That really fried my noodle for a little bit. That took me a little to adjust to there. So there is that, but then beyond that, that's where it gets really hard because once you get past that, that was kind of the biggest WTF entity, Anthony. Although there's a few that just, I mean, they shocked me in how they presented in size. But again, size is, it doesn't do a fair job of judging an entity's appearance. We put more value on size than they do. Um, hmm. So beyond that, yeah, I don't know, Anthony. That'd be tricky. I've actually seen Hecate back down. I have seen an entity that Hecate will back down to in a heartbeat. But then that said, you could probably find any entity out there. Yeah, I've never seen a actual all powerful entity. I've seen entities that every one of them has a limitation of some kind, including Hecate. But another thing that I want to reiterate, and this is so very important, it's not a pissing contest, people. see here. See, and we jumped again. See, we all start somewhere, Violet Star. Don't worry about that. Crap, we are busy in here tonight. I am having trouble keeping up with everything. My apologies. Let's see. Asking to change a ritual. Asking whether we have to complete one ritual to move into the next one in the role. The ritual I want to do is later on. And Dragon of the West, I answered that. I said there's a reason for the order. If I didn't make that clear, I'm sorry. But yes, the Hermetics does have an order. And yes, that order is important. You don't want to jump from one to the other without doing those because there is actually an energetic change that takes place within the energetic body, a natural alchemy that is being done throughout the Hermetic process. It's not called a process for a reason. They didn't just randomly choose the word. It is actually a process that builds upon one another. And it really should be followed because if you jump the process, you're setting yourself up for a lot of problems. Um, Now, you choose to do that. Okay, you choose to do that. But your question to me was, is there a reason for the process? Yes, there is a reason for the process. There is a specific reason for that process. And those reasons, that energetic change, that alchemy is all very, very important things. And that is the reason that that tradition utilizes and teaches the rituals that it teaches in the order it teaches, and that it has the individual work on it. In fact, if you have not reached a certain point in the alchemy, if you're actually a part of that tradition and working with a group, if you've not reached a certain point, they won't even let you move on. You stay right there until you've got all that done. Then you move on. Then you move on. Whereas if you're a solo practitioner and you're following a book like Modern Magic, for example, where yes, you have the lessons, yes, he gives you the homework. There's plenty of people who will just try to do a chapter a day. And I've seen it wreck wreck them. They're just not energetically able to handle that just yet. It's like building up a tolerance or an adaptability, or like running. Um, if you spend 30 years sitting at a computer desk, working an office job, and the only exercise you get is walking to the coffee pot, and then you try to go out and run a full marathon, no training, no practice, no nothing, yeah, even if you make it to the end of the finish line, which a lot of people in this scenario won't, but even if you make it, you run the real risk of causing some damage. Or even if you don't cause damage, you're going to drastically regret it for a very long time after. Thoughts on Santa Morte? Okay, well, Santa Morte is actually an entity I have worked with in the past a little bit. Um, but by and large, I don't work with her a lot. And in fact, I actually try to avoid working with her. And a lot of this just comes from we don't get along. That's really kind of it. First off, there is at least one entity I work with that her and that entity do not jive at all. Period. They want nothing to do with each other. For um, we'll say viewpoint differences. Um, But Santa Morte is very much about keeping what is hers and hers only, and she is all about the. She gets very, very possessive of a person, and I'm not cool with that. And then there's this aspect of how. Yeah, there's just a lot of aspects around her that I don't try not to say anything that sounds like I'm smack talking or anything like that because that's not the case. It's just we have personality differences where we don't really get along, and to some extent, it would be viewed disrespectful to said other entity. Um, and since that entity is a very dear ally and friend of mine, it's just that's an entity I don't work a lot with. Anytime that her and I do cross paths, we definitely have that respect there for one another. But she knows at no point in time will I ever say I am yours. I will not work with her on her terms. Um, so I maintain respect there, but she's not one I'd work a lot with. I do apologize, Moonradish. Have I worked with in the moon? Um, the name sounds familiar, but I'm not recalling it right now. I want to say that's a Nokian, maybe. And it has been a long time since I've touched anything Enochian. It's been a really long time. Let's see. Da-da-da-da. Whoa, we jumped again. See how to find if two entities one works with don't get along without slash before any possible conflict. Generally sit down and talk to them. Honestly, that's actually how I found out because the entity I worked with, I'd worked with a great deal, very long time. When the whole Santa Morte conversation came up, and I tend to enjoy getting feedback on entities in similar realms because I have found out entities do tend to have a lot of interaction with one another, and it's a great way to get some um, information. And when I approached this particular one, it was made pretty clear that nope, 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 they don't get along. Now it was kind of funny because they actually didn't forbid me to. They gave me their side of the story. They gave me their viewpoints and everything. And well, Santa Morte basically told me point blank, unless you dedicate to me, we don't work together. And it's like, then we don't work together. Sorry. So yeah, and generally, yeah, that's been my experience. I've had no issues just asking. I do not summon entities or place them on the same working space without finding out, without doing some research. And the easiest way is ask them. Yeah, she is. She is extremely possessive. So if you look at my just general practice, the fact that I refuse to dedicate and it's like, yeah, I belong to you. I don't do that. So first off, mark one. Then the second thing is, you all know I work with a lot of entities, and I work with a lot of entities that easily cross into that death category. And I'm not going to give up these friends and allies for her. So it's just sorry. What did I think of the Enochian Entities? Um, I actually found them quite interesting to work with. It is a system I want to dive back into. Here's one of the reasons y'all don't hear me talk too much about my Enochian experience. My Enochian studies were actually pretty early on in my craft. And I think anyone here knows when you do anything early on in your craft, it's sloppy. So you there's a certain skill set and certain things that come with experience that no book or anything like that's ever going to be able to really replace. Um, and my workings in there were pretty early on. I found them very fascinating. I found them very effective. I can actually say I enjoyed them to some extent. I did find the rituals a bit clunky at the time. And the reason I say clunky at the time is I haven't actually gone back to redo the rituals with experience in a way where I've developed over the years. And I really want to do that. I really want to step back and take a look at it with experienced eyes where I didn't have that then. There's a certain wisdom that comes with that time in practice. Um, because I do have fond memories of those workings, but it felt clunky at the time. And I'm wondering if that is the system itself felt clunky to me, because not all systems work for everybody. I mean, they'll work, but we don't enjoy all systems because we are individuals and systems function differently. So if you find a system that fits you as an individual or person better, that's going to flow better. Um, but I do want to venture back to it and take a second pass by it. Um, Hopefully sometime soon. I got so much on my plate right now. I don't know when I'm going to be able to do that though. Well, when it comes to fallen angels, that's a tricky subject because this again becomes one of those more religious subjects. You remember earlier, if you were in here when we were talking about it, we said how entities get up and down on these pedestals. What we refer to as fallen angels, they never fell. They were not kicked out of any celestial body. It's not like, God and Jesus literally grabbed them by the belt loops and chunked them out or anything like that. There are entities that have left certain positions of their own by their own free will. They didn't fall, they weren't necessarily punished. That is more of a religion based story, even a mythology. And when you approach these entities, you find out they're many of these fallen angels, they are angels. They are complete angels. And if you put them aside beside any of the quote unquote true angels or currently still in good standing angels, there's not a lick of difference. It's just the mythology that humans have written about them to paint them in one view or another. Um, this is one of the reasons I have such issue with religion because they will literally paint it as they see fit. Now, real quick, when I say religion, don't everyone jump on the raw Christian bandwagon, okay? I mean religion because there's not a time in history where religions did not do this. Yes, Christians are most well known for it, but even before Christianity, all religions sought to change the beliefs of the religions they conquered. It's natural, it was all throughout human history, predating Christianity. So you can't blame one group when everyone did it, okay? And that's kind of the thing with religion. Um, and that was one of the things that was hardest for me. And it is really, really, really hard to find information that doesn't come from a religious perspective ever. And I think that's what drove me so much to focus so heavily into like journey work, astral travel, soul travel, and evocation, because these were really the only ways you're going to sit down and have those real time conversations and to gain a perspective that isn't colored by humanity. And that does get tricky. And that's the reason I put so much value on personal gnosis and data. Because personal gnosis alone to me is almost useless. And I say almost because personal gnosis without results and data, this is a dangerous thing to me because you could basically tell yourself a lie for the longest time to the point you believe it. That is why I love data and results based practice, because then I put any personal gnosis without fail against results and data. Only if the two align will I put that down in my grimoire. Only then. But that's how I do it. Everyone else has a different method. Everyone's got their own thing. I know many of you love the concept of results and database information. That's why you're at this channel. Y'all like my approach. Even if many of you disagree with it, you find my approach insightful and refreshing. And you love to hear the insights I have. And I've even had many of you who are very, very spiritual take my insights, compare them, even take some of my methods and utilize them and work them into your more religious or spiritual practice and get results. And that's wonderful. That's what it's about. It's about finding your path, not Drake's path. I know what I'm doing. Well, okay, I make mistakes. I blow myself up from time to time, but I know my path, and I've loved my path. And my hope of this channel is to empower you to find yours and get those results, whatever those results may be, as long as you're not harming another person, of course. And we jumped again. Crap. So, but hey, there you go. There's your rant. We didn't have a rant today, so now we got a rant. Y'all love those little rants. Thank you, GK. I try to remind people often that I do approach questions from the data and the experience. And when it comes to teaching, I can only teach from the data and experience because that's what I know is reliable. That's what I know is going to be most effective. And a lot of people want to think that because I will only teach from that I'm saying this is the only way. No, there are many, many pathways up a mountain. But I can only present what I have the data and the information for and feel I am doing it justice. Because I do take a personal accountability to the information I'm sharing. And I want to share the best data I can. In fact, one of the things that I have that I want to do this year is I want to go back to some of my older videos, rewatch them, and compare them to some of my notes. Because throughout my career, the data, as more data comes in, it's not that it completely flipped what I thought, but the data showed a much larger, truer picture, and then I had to readjust. So I want to go back to some of these older videos, view those, and see if I need to publish a new video with those adjustments. We have to be willing to grow. We have to be willing to make adjustments. If we nail it into a concrete foundation, say, that's it, we're done, it never changes, we've already committed spiritual suicide, because that becomes dogmatic zealotry, and there is no growth that will happen there. So please, 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 first off, no, I can only teach from a point of view that I find reliable, that I believe, at least coming from my southern ass, will get you the best results. And I encourage you to get out there, read, research, and most importantly, utilize what you find to find your path. Okay? Remember that. Let's see. Have I ever worked with Medusa? Worked with? Not necessarily. I've had a few wonderful conversations with Medusa. I can't say I've ever worked with her on any particular goal or anything. But I have had some wonderful conversations with her. Like I said one time on here, my wife tells me all the time if I ever did do a TikTok, it wouldn't be anything like information. It'd just me ranting about some random thing. Which she's probably right. So, yeah. Um, and that's actually one thing that I think I don't know if we should do a whole like live chat talking about it, but when it comes to a person's spiritual path, their spirituality, even their religion, I think people need to step back and respect it. Seriously. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people doing a lot of bad things in this world for a lot of stupid reasons. Religion being way high on that stupidity scale. Even spirituality being pretty high on that stupidity scale in a lot of times. And that's one reason I try to remind people free will is very important. And if your path is causing you to harm someone or take free will from someone, you might want to look a little closer at yourself because we're all in the same race. Our paths may be different, but we're all in the same race. And it's not a race where we're competing against each other. The only thing you're competing against is yourself. So if you have to put someone down in order to push yourself up, in my mind, this is strictly my mind and my opinion, you're doing something wrong. Now, don't get me wrong in saying that that's pacifist. You don't hurt nobody because if someone comes at you, I do think you have a right to defend yourself. That's a completely different side of that bench. But I do think we have too many people trying to put other people down for their beliefs, and that really breaks my heart. Drake, if you could have one request of magical understanding from a deity, what would you request? Hmm. A12, that's a tricky question, mate. It really is. Ooh, I don't know. One of the things that I have learned is knowledge, information, and understanding should be earned. Because if you just dump it onto somebody without the wisdom to utilize it, it can get people in trouble really, really quick. And when you ask me that, I think one of the great mysteries that I would like to one day understand better is the astral physical plane wall. And there's so many theories around how that wall of transferring a construct from the astral plane into the physical plane and then it's there. Um, there are a lot of theories, mysteries, misunderstandings, and complete just falsehoods around it. And let's be honest, there's not one magician on the planet that truly understands it. Um, that I'll admit that is one of those things that I would truly, truly, truly love to understand. But at the same time, I actually am a little terrified of what I would do if I understood it. I'm not going to lie. Um, Part of me is like, no, no, Drake, you're a good guy. You would use this knowledge in a good way. You would. And then there's a part of me. I know I can be petty. I know I can be a little shit. I can be a full blown asshole. So I don't know that I have the wisdom to carry that understanding, which is sad. And that tells me I still have work on me to do, which I admit I have a lot of work to do on me. And that's the reason I do shadow working at least twice a year, 2 major shadow workings twice a year. And I am constantly growing, constantly learning and developing in hopes to become a better Drake. I once had a mentor, it was before I got in Magic, told me that you should try to leave the world better than you found it. You may not succeed, but you should try. Um, if your path is something you look at and it's actually making the world worse, you're you're messing up. And at this point in time, I do hope to leave something that betters the world. If I can just leave it as I found it, I'd probably be happy. But I do hope I leave something that can better the world. I don't know if I will or not. We'll see how I pull that off. I like to think I got a few more years on that. Um, but yeah. Is that Icy? Watched the Black Pepper, loved it. Hey, thank you. Thank you very much. Check out the Nutmeg video if you ain't seen it yet. I really enjoyed making that one. See, Luna, let's try not to bash online platforms just because we don't agree with some of their users. Yes, that's actually a very good statement as well. Did somebody try to bash someone up in here? Don't you be doing that, people. Oh, the tiki talks. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, see, let's not put down the tiki talk because look, okay. First off, I think we all know Drake's old, right? Or I'm getting up there. I've been around the sun a few times. Um, I'll admit I did not understand TikTok. I did not know what it was. My daughter had to explain it to me, and it wasn't until she explained it that when it I'm muted. Why am I muted? Hey, okay, I think it's working now. I think it might just be you. Um, she literally explained it. It's little short, pointless videos. And when I understood that and I realized I could get on there and I could flip through it and I could see some nonsense and I could have a laugh, I enjoyed that. I really did. Um, I love a good laugh. I think laughter is something we need more of in this world. That's why it's such a shame that we're trying to silence comedians. Um, but you do have a side of the platform where people are trying to use it for things that are not quite the senseless comedy that you can just flip through and have a few laughs. And there's a lot of things that should not ever be attempted to sum up in a very short snippet, ever. That creates far too many miscommunications. I mean, how many people do you know misinterpret something in a text message just because the text message is short? There's a lot of things, conversation wise, topic wise, wisdom wise, that does not need to be summarized. Um, and I don't blame the platform for that. I blame the fact that people are attempting to overly distill and summarize important things. Um, and really, that could happen anywhere. That could happen anywhere. So, yeah, yeah. I think we need to be careful and try to do our darndest to attempt to um, detail our communications. Many of you actually know if you're over in the Discord community, or you've messaged me or emailed me. I am very, very prone to ask, "Does this make sense? Do you understand?" And I had one person think I was being a smart aleck. I'm not. First off, text is not my best communication. In fact, I even do it on the live streams. Now I think about it, ask you all if it makes sense. But when I explain something, I don't just want to explain it to you. I don't want you to just listen. I want you to process. And I'm asking so that when you process it, as you process it, if you have a question, if there's something you want clarified, you're going to raise your hand. You're going to say, hey, Drake, what about this? And I'm going to attempt to do that. I'm going to attempt to further explain that because I truly want you to understand. I'm not having a conversation. I'm not talking at you. I genuinely want you and I to connect and communicate so that we can understand. Because I want to understand you. I have to listen to you and attempt to understand your question. And there's been many a times you all have taught me a lot because of that. So I would encourage everyone here, work on your listening. Try to listen to understand. Don't listen to respond. Listen to understand. Okay? All right. Jade is officially throwing clocks at me. Violet Star, thank you very much for the super chat. We highly appreciate that. Mugs up to you. I'm going to have to hop off here. This has been a lot of fun, everyone. We got to get back into the shenanigans of work this week. Oh, man, it's going to be a busy week, but I am looking forward to it. I got so many great things to do. You all have a fantastic week. Stay safe out there. If you're in any of these areas that got the heavy snow, please drive safe. Even if it's starting to melt off, remember, at night that can refreeze into black ice, people. Stay cautious. Don't get crazy. That's when people get hurt. Stay cautious. Keep up on your journals. Keep up on your meditation workings. And if you need a day, okay, this is important self-care info right here. Public service announcement. If you need a day, take a day. Just sit down, relax. You don't have to do anything. Just take a day. Sometimes it's good for you. We all need them. Take a day. All right, everyone. I will see you next week. And again, if you're a channel member or a Patreon member, go over and hit the little voting thing so you can let me know what time we'll best do the members-only live streams. And keep your eyes out for the vlogs. We're going to work on trying to get those to come back. Until next time, everyone, take it easy and have a great week. Bye-bye.